when is the last time that you can remember being on stage and really feel like it wasn't going well? Like, not just like, that was fine, that joke hit, that one didn't. That sort of feeling in the back of your neck where you're like, uh-oh, you know, there's
Dude,
still like 18 minutes.
I kind of got it last night. Just it was going well up to a point, and then I was trying this new thing, and it was just not working. And I listened back to the recording to the day, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this feels very." It was just super uncomfortable what I was talking about. I didn't sound clever about it at all, but I remember that feeling bubbling up in me when I was talking about it. Like, why isn't this working? I want this to work. And then I listened back to it today. I was like, oh, because it fucking sucked and it made everybody uncomfortable. So that, I mean, that was the most.
Having to realize that it's your fault is like the worst. You're like,
it's super important.
yeah.
I feel like a lot of the times it is. Well, no, there's some of these gigs that are fucking awful. But the last time I really felt it on stage that it really wasn't going well. It's hard to say, man, because before this it was COVID.
Right.
And I would go, dude, the Cellar. Did you hear about the Comedy Cellar was doing that thing where they had like a little fish tank?
Yeah.
That you go performing. So I would go there, and it was just like you were gonna bomb.
Yeah.
Like half the time you were. So it was. I don't know. It was weird to just sit in that a lot and just be like, I'm gonna try these jokes I've thought of, and you're the only people I can tell them to. And when they didn't like you, man, they really didn't fucking like you. But still felt good to have the opportunity to get in there. But there were plenty of nights in there where I'm like, fuck, I suck at this.
And that's a room I'd have to imagine where when things are not going well, you're like, it's not like you're doing a mic, you know?
Dude, no. But I just thought of the thing, the hardest time I had on stage. It was like a couple months ago, the most recent one. And it was after they opened that room back up to the public. But they were still had like plexiglass, and it was the first time I was doing that show, and there was like a dark energy in that room for the first 2 weeks that it opened up. Everybody was coming out of there like, whoa, that was rough. That was the roughest thing that ever happened. And I went up there and I'm just telling my jokes, and it's just nothing's hitting. And it's that thing where you sort of come outside of yourself and you're like, wow, this is just me telling jokes. I'm just an idiot up here reciting this fucking monologue, and I'm not quick, but I'm like, I have to address it. So I'm like, what's up? And then nobody said anything. I was like, well, you're just drunk and fuck you guys. And I turned on them pretty hard. And then, yeah, I was a coward. I was a coward about it, if I remember correctly.
You have that moment where you like, it's like in the movie where like the kid is getting picked on finally snaps, and they like almost like kills the bully, where they're like, geez, man, get off him.
Dude, yeah, the crowd's just looking at you like, oh my God.
Yeah. We all we did was cough. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Dude, that's so funny. Yeah.
You just snap.
It is. And I remember I've heard some comics talk about it where it's like, no matter how bad it's going, don't let them break you. You know what I mean? Like, don't let them. And I feel like that is you letting them break you. And you're just like, you know what? Fuck you guys. Huh? How about that?
Right.
It's the same instinct as going like, well, okay, I suck. Anyway, it's like showing them that they're winning. So there's got to be a better way to do it.
It's like the my favorite line you see is like, this worked last night, and whatever city. You know, you're like, this worked on the Thursday show.
You like it when people say stuff like that on stage?
Sometimes it's like necessary. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I personally don't like to draw any attention to what I'm doing as an act. You know what I mean? Like, it's like a magic trick where I want people to think this is happening right now, live. They're the only people that are going to see this. You know, I get nervous sometimes just addressing that I'm a comedian when I'm on stage. You know, like I don't want them to know. Yeah. You know,
what's your style like? Do you have like a more conversational style?
Yeah, definitely more conversational. And so it's hard for me sometimes where if I were to say like, man, this killed like 3 shows ago. I don't know what's going on. Where I almost feel like I'm ruining it for them. We're like, I thought we were just talking,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. I think, dude, I think you're right about that. And the fact that your conversational plays in, I want to be more like that. I feel like, yeah, I stick to a script a lot. And if you come out of it, they're just like, oh, this is just, oh, you just say this to everybody. And
Yeah.
you're mad that we don't like it as much as everybody else liked your fucking stupid monologue, you little,
Right.
you
Yeah.
little.
Yeah. It is like the attitude of a child to be like, why won't you play with
Yeah,
me?
yeah,
You
yeah, yeah,
know?
for sure. What's the fucking adult version of that? I guess the adult version is just going like, all right, well, you didn't like that. I'm gonna have to keep doing what I do. So
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
It's
And just
it's
roll with it that way.
rolling with it is the most adult thing you can do, of just being like, yeah, I mean, this doesn't always work, but
Yeah.
I
That's
got
what
I
can get
got
a
10
laugh.
minutes left, you know, like,
Which that could also get a good laugh if you just say shit like that. I've
right.
done that on sets where I'm like, hey man, when I'm handling it better, I'm just like, hey, guys, 10 more minutes of this so y'all can get with it or not. I don't know. So
Yeah.
do it.
You must know the feeling of like counting those minutes where you're like, I got 2 minutes left, you
Oh yeah,
know,
dude.
and I'm sticking the landing. Like, I'm not going 201, not even close, you know?
No, that was how I felt when you set up that show in Pittsburgh. It was in a brewery. Seneca set it up, and it was fucking great. But I was just like, I'm just trying to get to fucking 40 minutes, but we're in a brewery and it's loud and people are talking. And I was like, I just fucking just gonna get as close as I can, and then I'm getting the fuck out of here. And it's done.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, it's like a bank robbery, you know? It's just like smash and grab and
Yeah,
take
yeah.
whatever you can, you know,
Get the
and
fuck
get
out of
out.
here.
Yeah, exactly. What when you're in a place like the Cellar and things are not going well, is there a point now where you're at where you can go, well, this is how I work on things, everybody knows this happens? Or do you still have that feeling, because there's so much reverence to that room, that when you're not, if you don't do well there, you're not killing even, you're doing well, but maybe you just don't, you're not doing as well as you want. Do you feel the nerves more? Do you feel like it's a bigger deal, or have you kind of made your peace with, you just have to
Um,
work?
I've made my peace with the work aspect of it, and it's also because when you first start there, they'll tell you, they're like, you don't have to try new shit, you don't have to impress us. Like, you can do the same jokes every goddamn night. Your goal is to just do well and kill. So it's
Right.
like after you earn some credit on that and show that you're consistent, and you'll know when people feel like you're consistent,
Right.
the people that are booking everything. And now I feel a little more space to be like, I'm going to try this and see how this goes. And if not, I still try to be smart about it where I have something I back it up with. So I'm
Yeah.
not just doing that thing where you just go up and you're like, I'm going to say whatever comes into my head for 10 minutes and you guys can laugh or not, but uh, I'm the shit and I'm going to do that. I don't do that necessarily, but yeah, the work aspect of it. I like how you put that, where you're just like, whatever the set is, it's just like, I'm coming back tomorrow. So
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because there's a point I think you have to get to if you're going to continue to do this, where you can't make every show life and death,
no, man, yeah,
which I used to do. I don't know if you did, but every show for me was like how I
absolutely.
felt for the rest of the week.
Yeah, dude, or even the day leading up to it, just like that drain of like knowing like tonight's the night, tonight's the night.
Right.
And I have less of that now, thankfully, just because, but new situations bring it out. Where it was like I was on the road and I was doing cities for the first time, it was definitely more of that heightened thing. So when you get to new plateaus, I think it's good that you can sort of ramp yourself up like that. But then on your sort of normal everyday thing, yeah, you can't get too emotionally invested. You need to be able to do your work and then sort of step away from it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. And it has to change as you go. You have to be able to check yourself into ramping up and also cooling yourself down, you
Yeah, yeah,
know?
for sure. Like self-regulation, I feel like is a big part of continuing to do comedy, because you see all the time comedians burn out and get into
Oh
drugs
yeah.
and all this stuff, and it's just like it is. People need to recognize it is a thing where it's like it can be very draining. You got to fucking go out and perform. I mean, you talk about fucking headliners and clubs. That was like I was trying to do more time on the road so I could get to that level, and it's just like I can't imagine having the weight of the whole show on you yet, and then doing a consistent hour to 3 hours 2 nights out of the week.
Right.
And then an hour 2 of those other nights. Like, but then you meet comics and you like, I got a taste of it on the road. And I was like, I can see how people adjust to this. I can see how people, once they hit this next level, they're able to sort of automate it and not get too emotionally invested in every show they have at a club where they're headlining. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, figuratively and literally, it'll kill you. You know, and like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you are so invested in every show that you're doing an hour, that's maybe 6 hours in a weekend.
Yeah.
Come the last show, you're gonna have nothing left.
Yeah.
You're gonna be drained.
And it's I listened to this Jerry Seinfeld interview, and I can't stop listening to him interview. I don't think his stand-up's like the greatest thing ever, but
Right.
I like listening to him talk about it. And he's talking about comedy where it's like it's just built to destroy you. Like if you're trying to have like a long career, it's built to like fucking break you down, dude.
Right.
In a
Yeah.
weird way.
He's so interesting to me because like I watch his stand up and I feel like you almost appreciate it like you would appreciate like a painting where you're like everything here is so technically sound and every decision I appreciate. I will still laugh harder at, like a blue collar comedy tour album. You know what I mean? Like it's but when he talks about comedy, you're like, this is everything I thought since day one.
Yeah, he's got a good philosophy on working in comedy and, just the day-to-day aspect of it. I think it's cool.
Yeah, his work is the way he can, make it sound. I mean, I think he's even said it like in Comedian, like it's like a construction worker. Sometimes they don't want to go to work, but they do.
You gotta fucking drag your ass in.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
When you first started, and it's so hyped up, everything is so hyped. Do you remember any opportunities from those early, maybe even not early years, where in the moment you're like, this is the biggest thing. This is the biggest thing that could happen to me. I have to do this. It doesn't go well. You're like, I'm done. It's over. And then 6 months go by and it's not even a blip, you know?
Yeah. Dude, for sure. When I was starting out and I had moved back to Atlanta, it was like Atlanta had just produced all these great comedians that got traction. They all did like JFL, fucking Rob Hayes, Caleb Synan, Dulce Sloan, Clayton English won Last Comic Standing like the year I moved back there. Noah Gardenschwartz, like all these dudes were doing, Carlos Miller, DC Young, like all these dudes are just popping out of Atlanta. And I moved back there. I was like, oh man, dude. And it seemed like a big avenue for a lot of them was they would get Laughing Skull Festival and there would be people there that were watching. It was still a competition there. And like my buddy Ismail did it and like got his manager off it. And I was like, okay, I got to fucking kill at Laughing Skull Festival. And I remember I went and I competed and I got to like the semifinals. And then in that round, I had to go first. And I was like disheartened. I was like, man, I'm not even going to do well because I'm going first. And I got like kind of drunk and I just had a sloppy, goofy ass set. And I was like, man, I really just let myself down in a big way. It seemed huge. And then the subsequent years, I would go back to Laughing Skull Fest. Like, I got to get management out of this. I got to get management before I move out of this town. And it never came. Like it never, nobody ever saw me at Laughing Skull Fest. It was like, you're the best. Oh, let me manage you. And it was, now it's like nothing to me. You know what I mean? I'm like happy that sort of unfolded the way it did because it made me want to, I guess, push harder or whatever. But it was one of those things.
Dude, contests are, I don't know. I still find myself signing up for certain comedy contests just because I think it's like, you're like, this will be different. You know what I mean? In festivals, they're the most humbling like disappointing. I don't think any comic has ever done the festival they wanted and it went the way they wanted it to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Never,
Festival,
never.
they just fucking humble you, dude. That's yeah.
Because you have to pay money to be there. You're already starting off in debt, where you're, and then if the shows aren't amazing, and what, like you said, where someone comes up after you and go, you're the best person here, and we have to have you, you feel like a failure.
Yeah, dude. Or have you experienced this where you're like, you go to a festival and you're like, surely the people I'm around are the funniest people ever, and then you get there and you see somebody that's like, dude, we're all dog shit. This guy's the truth, man.
Yeah, there's like one person who you've never heard of, and you're kind of like watching, like with half paying attention, and then you're just like, why is everybody laughing so much?
Yeah,
and then you poke your head and they're just killing. You're like, God, just kill me. Yeah, that's the worst. What do you think the farthest, especially coming from a city like Atlanta, I'd have to think the farthest you have gone, mileage, time, for the least amount of money?
Dude, after I added a day to that little tour I did to go to St. Louis.
Yeah. Wow, St. Louis? You went out there, dude.
From New York. I went from New York to St. Louis I got $20.
Oh my God.
I did 10 minutes at the St. Louis Helium. And dog, it was one of those sets where it was like an out-of-body experience again, because my friends came, my friend Stacy, and she's being supportive. I posted I was going to be there on Facebook, and I come out, there's like fucking 19 people in the crowd, and Helium's like a big room, so they're all just 19 people dispersed in this massive room that seats hundreds, and Stacy's in the front row with like a camera, like, woo, just recording me, and the bright lights are on me. And I just felt like this fucking dancing monkey. And I made $20, and I was like, I'm just going to do my set. I didn't do anything new. I didn't say like, hey, I just like, here are my jokes. Okay, bye. Thank you.
Dude, that room, a lot of clubs like that, but that room in particular, where it's under like the mall, under the mall, which is off to a great start. And it's so wide, like it seems never ending when you're on stage.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, you're like panning your view. This is what you do. You're telling your jokes like a goddamn fan.
Yeah.
I forget the word.
And no one, like, if it's not full, it feels, you could have 100 people in there and it's gonna feel empty. You know what I mean? And you're like, where did they put everybody? They
just sat where they wanted to, Collin. Everybody just sat.
Dude, isn't that the best when you go into a club, especially like a good club, and you look around and people are sitting pretty much wherever they want? You're like, we almost had it. Like, we could have really, we could have came together. God.
So you've been to that room in St. Louis, that Helium in St. Louis?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I ate it real good there a couple times.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just like those late Friday and Saturday shows where it's like it's a blue collar town. So like people are tired or they're hammered or they're both. And just like, it's like 60 people. It was during COVID. It was like October or November.
Oh, okay.
And so it's limited capacity, and people already don't really want to go out, and you're just up there for 20, 25 minutes. You're like, man, like, I don't know what else you want. Like, I also don't like this. It's equal.
Yeah.
It's
I had a lot of stuff like that at the Atlanta Punchline.
Yeah.
It's like somehow that crowd, I was like in that club, I never did that good. I did like on the open mic nights, and then they booked me on a show, and I just like, I don't know. I can't I can't help you guys, I guess. I have nothing for
Can
you.
help you. Yeah, right. Yeah, you're just. I mean, we'll just get through this, and then somebody else will come up
Yeah,
and
yeah,
hopefully do better.
yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you bomb on a show, will you stick around for the rest of the show, or if you can, will you get out of there?
Dude, if I can, I usually try to get out of there. You don't want to,
Yeah.
unless you have friends there that you can be like, I bombed with, and
Yeah.
they're
Right.
like, yeah, buddy, you did. If it was like people you were meeting for the first time and you're in their town doing their show and you bomb, you got to say your goodbyes, thank them for the time, and get out of there.
Yeah. You don't even stay at the hotel. You're driving to the next city.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, shake
Oh
it
my.
off.
Yeah. What do you think the worst show for you is? The show that lingers in your mind of never forget, you know?
Dude, I was like, I was new in comedy and I had dropped out of college to pursue it. And I was living in this hostel.
My God.
I was living in this hostel on Venice Beach where I would like clean rooms to be able to live there. And I was at a bar nearby and I started talking to this dude at the bar. We were drinking. He was like, I booked this reggae show at this bar. And I was like, oh, I'm a comedian. And he was like, really? And I was like, I was drunk, so I was cocky. I was like, yeah, I'm pretty good. Pretty. He's like, all right, we're gonna have you in between sets for Venice Beach's best reggae rock band. And I was like, all right, bet, man, I'll be there. And I went back to the hostel. I've like invited everybody. I just started living there. So it's all new people, like cool people that are staying there. I'm like, yeah, come out. I'm doing a comedy show. I'm in between these reggae bands.
Oh my God.
And dude, and then I got nervous. I remember drinking a fair amount before it. And then I got up there and I don't know why. I just started trying to do like this avant-garde. Like I tried to tell a couple jokes and they didn't work. And then I tried this avant-garde shit. I don't know if that's the word, but I would just like stand silently and like look at people. I didn't know what else to do. I don't know. I was like, maybe this would be funny if I just stopped talking. Maybe my words suck so much. I was like, maybe no words. And then I look at the dude that booked me on the show. I look at the dude that booked me on it. And through the silence, he just says, I thought you were funny, man. And it sticks with me in the worst way. Him saying, I thought you were funny, man. And then the lead singer of the band like approaches the stage and he was like, all right, that's it, give it up for Mike. And he takes the microphone from me. Everybody, there's still pictures from it with everybody just like turned away, like somebody took pictures and you can see the crowd just turning away with their arms crossed like in disgust. And then dude, it was so weird with everybody that worked at the hostel. Like they looked at me and I was like, it's not usually like that. I'm not usually that bad. But then one of like the drummer from the band, I was talking to him outside and he goes, you know what they call that, man? Experience. And I was like, yeah, man, thank you. It was just cool.
That dude looked at you and knew. He was like, I have to say something that may save this kid's life.
Yeah.
You know?
And I remember it so deeply. I remember the two lines. I remember, I thought you were funny, man. And you know what they call that? Experience. And that's like, that still feels like the worst bomb I ever took.
Dude, there are times in this business where like the smallest comment or laugh or appreciation from somebody, well, you're like, all right, I can survive 6 more months. I can feed off of that, you know, for 3 more bad weekends in a row, you know?
I'm not going to lie. After that happened, I didn't do comedy for like a month or two.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to focus on me for a second.
I'm going to figure some things out in here. Yeah.
Go back. Dude, but that was what's your worst bomb? Does anybody ever ask you that?
Yeah. People have asked me. Mine, I have a couple. I did I've mentioned this a couple times, but I had a high school prom kind of thing happen where, you know, like when you first start comedy, you just think like every show is a show, you know, where you're like, yeah, I guess it's probably what they're doing at an improv, you know, or at a Funny Bone. I can't imagine it would be any different, you know. And I did a friend of my dad's called me and was like, I heard you got into comedy. I'd like to hire you for an event, you know? And he's like, what do you charge? Like, I don't know, $50. Is $50 too much? You're like, for an hour? Yeah, $50 seems right. You know, like I don't want to overstep. And he's like, all right, yeah, that's great. You know, of course he's like, yeah. And the gig was not even like stand up. It was his daughter who was going to the prom and her friends were going to get photos taken at like a place with a bunch of plants, like a conservatory or like a greenhouse, you know, and like all these fancy plants and stuff. And I showed up and he did not even tell his daughters that I would be there. And I show up and he's like, hey, this is my buddy Collin. He's a comedian. He's going to walk around with us and tell some jokes while we take pictures. And I did that for 45 minutes and $50.
How did the girls like you?
You know, it was rough. You know, it was tight. They were a tight crowd. Dude, we started outside of the place. He was like, he just looked at me. He's like, go ahead. And I'm like, man,
that's so funny.
Like, homework is crazy. And like, what's up? When they start putting all these letters in math, you know, like just doing like the most, trying to find something to connect to them on. And then at the end of my time there, how I knew it was time to go was I kept trying to like do something to get a laugh, you know, where like, because I felt like that's all I was supposed to do. And they're taking pictures and I'm like trying to tell jokes while they're getting pictures and crack them up and make them like laugh during the pictures and stuff. And one of the girls' moms comes over and she's like, I think we're good. Like, I think we're okay. All of this for now. And the guy that booked me, like, he just looked at me. He's like, what can you do, right? And I was like, what? You could have not have asked me to come here. That's what you could have done. And then the worst part was we had to share an elevator. Like, I kind of got fired, and then we all got on the same elevator and left together.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That was horrible.
That's a hard one, man. I heard some buddies of mine got paid to walk around with these Australian dudes while they drank. Yeah, and just roast them. It was for like, but it was 3 of them. So they had the numbers on their side. It was 3 friends. Right. And the Australians just paid them to walk around with them and talk shit.
Dude, that's a dangerous game. That is.
Australians are wild, dude. But I think it went well. I think they did okay.
Dude, I have seen that sort of not that similar situation, but you know, where like someone's like, oh, it's my birthday, roast me. You guys are comedians. I want to have a roast. And then it just gets so awkward because you're like, man, we don't really know you. And we're saying things that might upset, if the jokes we're making there, people don't either get, or they're way too personal. And people's like, what? Like, why would you say that? I mean, I'm sure you've heard Mark Norman's story of the corporate roast he did. It's like it's pretty famous story. I won't do it justice, I'm sure, but basically he got hired to do a very well-paid corporate gig, and the guy that hired him was like, here's all this dirt on the people there, and I'm paying you, and I like your edge, so roast them. Really let him have it. And he goes to this gig and he's like, hey, Bobby, I heard you're gay. You know, come on, everyone knows you're gay. And Bobby's like, what? No. It's like his wife's like, I knew you were gay. Like, you know, like goes to the next one. And he's like, hey, Mike, we all know you're on cocaine. Come on, share it with the rest of us. And Mike's kids are like, Dad, you're on cocaine. I thought you would quit cocaine. Like, and the dude that hired him flipped out. He's like, that was horrible. He's like, well, that's what you asked for. You know, like that's what you wanted. And he said he did get paid. And he just said it was a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Shit.
Yeah.
Ruining lives.
Right. Yeah.
What the fuck did this man expect? People think they want comedy, dude.
That's it. Yes.
And they don't know that there's like a context that has to exist. You know what I mean?
Dude, how many like birthday parties or celebrations have you done where comedy was like asked and you're like, why don't you just have a good time?
Dude, yeah. It's like, I don't know why people think they want it. I mean, you know, as a comedian, it's like, why would you ever even pay for a comedy show? That's how I feel.
Right. Yeah,
Why would
exactly.
anybody watch this? Fucking, I just got asked a month or two ago for this lady was like, my brother's having a birthday. We love your act. We want you to come do it. And part of me was like, I should do it just to get the experience. But I ended up not doing it. And my buddy Greg Stone went and did it. And
Yeah.
he was like, dude, I heard you were supposed to do this backyard show. It was awful. It was so bad. I was like, I mean, yeah. And apparently the lady was talking shit on me because I didn't email her back. She was like, to Greg, she was like, you know, Mike Rowland, that piece of shit didn't fucking say. And they were like all super like Trumpy and like they hit me up because they thought I was Trumpy, I guess. And that was
Yeah,
why
yeah,
I
yeah.
put it in the email and I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna participate in this. And then but apparently they paid very well. They did pay
Oh,
well.
I'm sure. I'm sure those gigs, those are like purge parties where you're like,
Yeah.
you show up and you're like, I'm glad I'm getting paid well. Is there some weird stuff going on here?
Have you heard
Um,
Jim Jeffries has a good story about doing a show for, I forget who it is, some Australian that he went and did a private event for because Mariah Carey booked him. And then he went and did the show, and the guy whose birthday it was didn't even know who the fuck he was. And
oh
he just
my God.
and he had to like perform in front of like it was just like a massive table of celebrities. So he's just like standing there and like Justin Timberlake is watching him, just like, what the fuck is this? It's a
Dude.
dude, it's a great story. It's so funny.
It is so true that like people think like you're right. I wouldn't pay to go to a comedy show at this point. Where like if I can get in and watch for a little bit, maybe. But
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I watch a couple comics and I want to leave. But to think that like, you know, people are like, yeah, it's our anniversary. We want to have a comedy show. You're like, or you could just have a good night.
Yeah,
Like you could
yeah,
just
yeah.
have a really fun night.
Enjoy each other's company, talk.
Yeah.
You don't
That's and
want
it's
this.
so weird. Like when a group of people, like I'm sure you get this at the Cellar. You get people that come in, like a bachelorette party, the classic thing, a bachelor party, a birthday, whatever it is, and it's like they're there to celebrate. And like, well, it's like going to a movie, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
to celebrate, you know, and not wanting to watch the movie.
Yeah, and getting mad when they kick you out for talking. Like, well,
Right?
what the
Yeah.
fuck?
What's the worst audience participation you've ever seen as far as like either they were rude, they were drunk, they were too talkative, they were
Bro,
not fun?
the worst audience participation was I was doing the Village Underground once, and like I said something about being from Atlanta, and they were like, "Go Dogs," and I was like, my parents went to Georgia Tech, and we had a back and forth, and then the management told them to quiet down, and then I kept going with my set. But then afterwards, they ended up getting kicked out because they wouldn't stop talking, and they were hammered, and they were like this older couple. And fucking, I have to talk to him on the stairs because I feel sort of bad for him where they're just like, I don't know why we're getting kicked out. I don't know. I'm like, dude, I mean, look at y'all. Y'all are fucking wasted right now. It's like you're not supposed to talk during the show. That's basic. And it's like, these are adults. They're
Right.
well-to-do adults. They're hammered. The fucking wife is like a little younger than my mom, and she's like falling on the stairs, fucked up. I'm like, y'all need to get it together. And this dude follows me on Instagram, and he'll message me sporadically and be like, it was still fucked up the way y'all kicked us out. He'll like comment on my fucking videos, like, you know what's not fun? You know what's funny is a comedian that is afraid to fucking what the fuck was it? He's like a comedian that can't take a joke. Pretty ironic, lol. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like he won't let it go. And I'm just trying not to say mean shit back, but it's like you fucking lost. And you're like, I feel like a good normal person would be like, wake up the next day and be like, man, we were pretty drunk. We were probably in the wrong. He woke
Yeah,
up
right.
like, fuck that, dude. I'm same dude the next morning that I was last night, dude.
And it's so weird. Like social media has kept those lines of communication
Yeah,
open. Where
yeah.
like it used to be, you just had a bad show and people left, they got thrown out, whatever. You never see them again. You're like,
What about it?
different town. Now they
Yeah,
find you and they're like messaging you things like you're like, hey, I don't know, this isn't normal. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. It's not.
it's so strange. It's so strange. I had a guy message me once after his show, and he was like, yeah, I saw you last time you came to this town. I had a great time. I was like, I'm thinking like, this is great. Like, this is what you want. Like, I'm like, I got like a fan, you know? He's like, great time. And then messages me after, and he's like, even though the jokes were the same, I still had a good time, you know? Maybe think about, I think with like some newer material. And then he starts going off. He's like, I think with some newer material and you know, some more shows, like this is going to be really something you're going to want to do. And like, you know, I think it's going to be great. I'd love to see some new stuff. And you're like, hey man, this has taken a turn to now. He's like, I think, you know, keep your head up. Like just write. Have you tried writing? You know, like
the artist way.
Yeah,
dude,
right.
He's your fucking manager.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, you know, I know the jokes were the same, and it's like, I mean, they weren't. You know, to be fair, they were not. Like maybe four jokes. You're like, I got to do those because they hinge everything else. But yeah, like I'm trying to explain to him like over Instagram message, like the subtleties of building a set. You know, like you have no idea how to construct a moment. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, oh, it's the worst. What is your go-to post-show? Could be. I'd like to hear both, actually. You have a good show. What's the post-show reward or hang or ritual or process? And for a bad show, what's the process?
Dude, I feel like either way, after a set, I like to do like a nicotine pouch or something.
Yeah.
Get a little buzz going. But it's like, if it's particularly good, if it's like a really good night, I'll eat like a bunch of junk food and shit. I'll eat like a bunch of Little Debbie's and candy bars. Be like, we did it. We earned this. And then if it's a particularly bad night, I'll do the exact same thing where I'm like, we had a rough one. Yeah. And that's the thing for sure.
Dude, it's so funny. Like, I feel like a lot of comics are the same way, where their celebration is the same thing as their like mourning.
Yeah.
You know, they're just like, I need this.
That might be bad. That might be a bad thing. Like,
it's definitely.
Set up some. Yeah, it's definitely a bad thing. Yeah. Set up some crossed wires in your head. Yeah, you gotta have something different for the.
Yeah, dude, I know like that feeling of coming off after a good show, and you're like, you feel like you just like earned something, and like you're like kind of tired. You're like, man, geez, what was that? 30 minutes. Wow. Like, and it's like, it really is no time. Like you didn't do anything physical, you know, like you didn't run, you know, you just stood up and you performed, but you come off and you're like drained. You're like, oh God, that's, you know, I could use a beer, you know, like for what did you do? You know? Yeah.
Dude. Yeah. Beer used to be the thing for sure. I was
always I'm if the show is bad, I usually look for something bad to eat. And probably before I do that, I am just calling like 2 or 3 comics, you know, over and over until they answer. And like just dialing, you know, until they pick up. And by the time they picked up, I'm already halfway through the conversation, you know, they're like, what's up? And I was like, and you wouldn't believe these people wouldn't stop talking and they never kicked him out. Like I'm halfway through the story. And that's I have to talk to another comic almost like if it's a bad show, almost immediately, I got to call somebody.
Yeah. I'll do that. I'll do it with whoever's like immediately in the room. And sort of gauge from them if that, I'm like, is that me, or do you think that's on the audience, or is it both? I'll look for some form of like validation or placation from anybody, honestly.
Yeah, because you want to either know that it was you or know that you're not crazy. You know, it's like, at least if I know, I can work with that.
Exactly.
But when you those shows where you leave and you're like, I just don't know what happened. You're like, that's the worst, you know, because you can't even figure it out.
Do you ever go back and listen to recordings from like particularly bad sets?
Oh yeah, it's the worst.
It's fucking hard, man.
Yeah.
I tried to do it this morning and it was like, oh, I heard where I lost him. I found it, but it was like so painful. Like listening up to that point, I would like pause and take breaks and like do other shit. And it was yeah, it's one of those things when you walk away from it and you don't know what happened and you just have to like suffer through a recording of it until you find like, oh, okay, that's where that's where I went.
Have you ever had when you're on stage and you can feel that you have like that moment you lost them? You know what I mean? Where you do a joke and it doesn't go and you're like, they got me. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I had them and I have lost them. And
Yeah, absolutely.
and you're just like, God, I can't. And nothing really has changed. The whole, but there's just a little bit of a shift in energy in you or in the room, and you're like,
Yeah.
damn, they're gone.
Dude, I think doing the longer sets has made me because I realized that's what more pros are like good at dealing with that. Pros are
Yeah,
good at like feeling the energy shift and being like, all right, and then just working their way back up to a good point. You know what
right,
I mean?
right.
Where it's because yeah, those moments freak me out a lot. But doing longer times got me more comfortable with being like, all right, well, this wasn't going great here. Like I listened to a recording a couple of days ago. It was like I realized for the first 20 minutes I was doing terribly, but then there
Right.
was like a point where it shifted, and the last 20 minutes were like went reasonably well, and it was good. If you sit in it long enough, sometimes you can, yeah, something can happen.
Yeah, yeah, you have to do it because it's just like you got to know. And if you could find one thing in it that you can use somewhere else, it's like, all right, this was worth it.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know, but
totally.
you don't know until you listen back. But that's what like I don't think people get sometimes where and how could they? But it's like imagine if you did a bad job at work and then you had to watch yourself do a bad job like and
Yeah.
get yelled at. You know, it's like, guy, you know, remember how you missed shipping all these boxes on Friday? Well, we have video of it, and you're gonna sit down and watch it. You know, watch your dumb face and hear your dumb voice. You know,
Dude, if people did that, they would definitely make less mistakes because the fucking pain of reliving a mistake is brutal, dude.
yeah, yeah.
Brutal.
That's the only reason I want to get better as a comic, just so I have to listen to less bad recordings of
Yeah.
myself. You know,
Yeah.
just want to be done, dude. I can't thank you enough for doing this. Please tell people where they can find you, where they can hear you, where they can see you.
Okay. You can see me at the Comedy Cellar most nights. You find me on Instagram at Michael Rowland O_O. And I got a YouTube page with some sets on it. And that's it for me, man.
Right on, man. Well, thank you again for doing this. I appreciate it, dude.
Dude, thanks for having me on, Colin. This is
Of
fun.
course, of course.